How's it going, YouTube? Hazardous here, and I hope you're all having a lovely day. Today's video is centered all around a tier list on the enjoyment I personally myself have as a survivor against each of the killers in Dead by Daylight. So we have Trapper all the way up to Dracula, who has just been released. The tiers that we've got, S tier being I crave going against you. These are the killers that I really enjoy. I feel like I can always have some, fun and interactive gameplay. Skull Merchant, I'm not looking at you. Enjoyment might be had. That is A tier. It's a killer that I do enjoy going against. There are killers that I enjoy more than this tier, but all around, it's a fun game to be had. Secondly, we've got B. I mean, it's alright. It could be worse, but it could definitely be better. These are the killers that might zone you sometimes or get you caught in a trap that you think, oh, god damn it, nice, the chase is over because of that. And then we've got the C tier, which is meh. It's like, there are definitely worse killers that I could go against, but there are so many more killers I would rather go against than you. And then in D tier, or I guess we could say this is F, this is boring.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
This is a killer that, excels at what they do, and they do it good. They will get you down quickly. It doesn't take a genius to play this killer and outplay you, quote-unquote. It's like, out of all the killers in Dead by Daylight, why did it have to be you? So to start off, we have Trapper. As mentioned, a zoning killer. Not a zoning killer, a trapping killer. You start the game, you see Corrupt Intervention, you see there's a trap in every loop you go to, and you know that your game's over. But there's also, the other end of the spectrum, where there's a Trapper that never plays his traps, never know what they're doing. But then you've also got, Basement Trapper, and, if you get put in the basement against a Trapper, you know that you're dead. They have 7 traps all the way up the stairs to basement. They have every entrance and exit trapped. The pallet's already gone. Overall, gameplay-wise, he is an M1 killer. He is relatively simple to loop. He has to gain Bloodlust at nearly every pallet that's safe and just drop it and then kick it and then on to the next until you zone them, I suppose, into an area where there's traps. I would say that it is definitely not one of the more fun killers to go against. I would probably put him as high meh. Low, I mean, it's I. We'll put him in meh, and we'll see how the tier list unfolds. Next on the list, we've got Wraith. Wraith is complicated. Wraith can be really easy to loop. I mean, he is fast, he can body block windows, he can body block pallets, and push you into an area that is generally unsafe, but he is also standard M1. There's not much I can say about Wraith, to be honest with you. He is relatively fun. If he has frosty eyes, he's got no head, but at that point, you've won the game very easily. You just have to cleanse a totem. I would probably say it's I. You know what I mean? Wraith is decent. I like Wraith. Hillbilly. We're going up the tier list in terms of power here. Hillbilly is definitely a strong killer, and in the right hands, he is devastating. But Hillbilly also has his limitations. A good Swift will probably dominate you pretty quickly if you can't get a down quick. Hillbilly is just so strong. Personally, I don't think his skill ceiling is incredibly high. Hens actually said himself, it doesn't take an awful lot to do something that looks really good on Hillbilly. But he is still, in my opinion, really fucking fun to face. They pretty much always M2, and if you're in a safe area, you can sort of check spot the pallet, see which way he's going, see if you can predict a curve. And I think he gets my brain moving quite a lot. Overall, I don't crave going against a Hillbilly, but there is enjoyment to be had. Next on the list, we have Nurse. I mean, I'm not gonna straight up put this killer in boring. I think I will admit that me against a Nurse is completely a skill issue. I am not good against a Nurse, and I'm sure that there will be a video soon in the future where you will see that. I'm trash against her. I go down pretty quickly. I can't have much of a chase unless she's a baby, but I'm not putting her in boring. I admire the skill that a Nurse has to own her power. I think in the right hands, she is a menace, and I admire that. I still think she is relatively fun to play against. Exactly, Super Alf, watching his Nurse, my jaw's just on the floor. How he can play as precise as he can to win over 1,000 games, and he beat me in that streak. I was his 624th win. It's insane. I have a lot of admiration for a Nurse that knows what they're doing. For a lot of people, it's a quick go next. For me, it's a learning opportunity. Overall, I'm gonna say, I mean, it's alright. You know what I mean? She is fun. And I don't understand why a lot of people just automatically hate her just because she's strong. She has a high skill ceiling. I've just not gotten to that point yet. Next on the list, we have Michael Myers. Poor old Mikey. I mean, he is getting buffed, and I hope the buffs are good. There is a ton of fun playstyles to have, but I am going to rank Michael based off of his base kit power. Not Tombstone, not Scratch Mirror, because that would be enjoyment might be had. Unless they camp and bring no head, then it's just a easy win until you get to the end game. Then it's a battle of getting the fourth person off the hook. But base kit Michael is interesting, because you can have a game where a silly, goofy teammate feeds him all the stock, and then he pops tier 3 on you when he's got Bloodlust, and you don't make it to a pallet. But there is also instances where, like, it's just a fun game. He's an M1 killer. He can insta-down you. You know, can you break LOS? Can you stop him from popping his tier 3? Can you outplay him and run him until tier 3 is over? It's an adrenaline-filled game. So I'm gonna say enjoyment might be had. You know what I mean? I think Michael is actually relatively fun to play against. I don't loathe going against him. When I spawn in and hear his noise, the Halloween theme playing, I'm like, oh, right, okay. Will he have Tombstone? He's definitely not Scratch Mirror. Could he be Vanity Mirror? No one runs that, but it might be. There is enjoyment might be had. You know what I mean? Hag. Hag ends up the bottom of a lot of people's enjoyment tier lists, and I can understand why. You know, if you go against Gummy Pete Rings and he traps the shit out of the place, you just die. There is not a lot you can do, especially people that run Scroll Reel, which I know Gummy does not, but Scroll Reel Hag is definitely something to fear. I don't want to say she sucks all the fun out of the game, but like most of the time I go against a hag, they either don't know what they're doing and they never trap, and they just play her as an M1 at 110, which is like you could literally play any other killer in the game, bar a couple, and have more fun. Or they are relentless. Now again, hag is someone that I think has a high skill ceiling. You need a lot to manage the game. In theory, hag should be the worst killer in the game. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. She is definitely garbage. But again, with her having Waterlogged Shoe, I am going to take her as base kit. So she's a trapping killer that can teleport. Can't teleport literally anywhere. There is a range, which took me a while back in 2018 to figure out, but here we are. Overall, I think she's meh. Next up, we have Doctor. Now, if you've watched a lot of DBD content creator videos on YouTube, you will see a lot of people facing Doctor, and a lot of 360s, a lot of silly sound effects and stuff like that, because most Doctors don't understand when to use his power. Obviously, you've got Static Blast, which is a locating power, but then you've got the area deniability, let's say, of stopping people from vaulting windows, stopping people from throwing or vaulting pallets with shock therapy. And a lot of people just don't know the timings, and, you know, even if you've got the muscle memory down, bringing add-ons that reduce detonation delay can really throw off your knowledge of how to play this killer. I think he's alright. I think he's alright. I don't mind him. Next up on the list is Huntress. And for a long time, I really enjoyed going against a Huntress. I had a lot of fun dodging hatchets. You know, oh, is she going to wind up? Oh, she wound up. And so you get an extra loop out of it. But I was also a Huntress main for a while, so I do know a bit about how a Huntress player will play the game. And Huntress is someone I do tend to have a lot of fun with. I will immediately. I mean, I would value her over a Michael. Enjoyment will probably be had. Next up is Bubba. Enough said. Next up on the list is Freddy. Freddy, it is boring, I'm not gonna lie. They usually always bring no head, maybe endgame builds to hide the fact that they're bringing no head. I don't know, there's not a lot of his power which is fun and interactive. I mean, if they place the blood pools in the right way, you just sort of get slowed and you get a hit. Or if he places a dream pallet and you don't know whether that's real or fake, you didn't see a teammate drop it, you throw it and it's fake, you're dead. He is meh. I would prefer him over a hag. I would not prefer him over a trapper. Actually, yeah, I would. So Freddy will be top of meh tier. Next, we have Pig. Pig received a buff recently to a dash, and it didn't really change the way you play against her. If you see a crouch at a pallet, just leave, run the other direction. But I still find her fun to play. Now, when you've got an active trap on your head and she's consistently pushing you away from those boxes to search, that's when it becomes tedious and boring. But overall, gameplay-wise, I feel like enjoyment might be had. Pig is relatively fun, relatively interactive, and I don't know. There's not really a lot I can say about Pig. I think as a killer, she brought at least a lot to the table in terms of like Pinhead's box, you know, going out of your way to get off of gens and do something. Otherwise you die or you get severely impacted by debuffs and stuff. So like Pig all around is fairly balanced, and I do enjoy her. Up next we have Clown, who only had the slowing bottles for a while, and his rework a couple of years ago brought the yellow ones. I have a lot more fun against Clown nowadays than I did a couple of years ago. It took me a while to learn how to accurately play against a Clown, and learn how they play, what goes on in their mind on what they want to do in a chase. It's basically just pre-drop and run, but you can get a couple loops out of a pallet if you play it right, especially the shorter ones. Clowns usually play in a sort of scummy play style, or at least in my personal experience, a lot of clowns play with a scummy play style, but I still consistently do somewhat decent, and I'm gonna say it's alright. Next up we have Spirit. I'm terrible against Spirit, I'm not gonna hide that fact. Spirit used to be an S-tier killer, but ever since her directional phasing sound was introduced, I can loop a Spirit a lot better than I used to. A good Spirit will still kill me and everyone else very quickly, unless I'm in a Swith, and we can coordinate pretty well. But overall, I would say that Spirit would probably go in its eye. There is just something about a good Spirit which just takes the game by storm. As for like placement in the tier list, I would probably put her midway between Wraith and Doctor. I feel like I would take a Wraith over a Spirit, but I would take a Spirit over a Doctor. Or is that accurate? Would I rather have a Doctor? I think I'd rather have a Doctor. No, you know what? She's going bottom of the list. I would take a Clown as well, actually, but I would rather have a Spirit than a Freddy, Trapper, or a Hag. Next is Legion. Is there really a lot to say about Legion? It's just stab everyone, run away, stab everyone, run away, mend. I feel like Legion is a killer. I'm just gonna put in boring. It's just Mending Simulator. Yeah, it's just Mending Simulator with Legion. Does anyone else have fun against a Legion? They tend to just, like, hit all four of yous, get a down, or like, hit three. Especially when they bring the Iridescent. Like, they just vault a pallet, end the power, hit you. There is not a lot to say. Legion's very annoying. I know a lot of people don't like going against him, and so honestly, Legion is bottom of the barrel for me. That's our first boring killer. Next is Plague. Plague's interesting. I personally don't take much pride in going against the Plague. Plague just vomits on everything. Vomits on you. Gets you broken. You can't heal. You bring a healing build? Fucked. You bring healing perks, healing build, medkits? Fucked. There is nothing you can do. And especially when they bring thanatophobia and stuff to do with, like, keeping you injured. Not so much like coulrophobia or anything, because you're not going to be healing anyway. I don't know. There's something about Plague, man. I just don't like it. I am tempted to put her in boring, but she is also a standard M1 killer if you never give her a power. Like, she gets it once a game automatically, twice with an add-on. But like, that alone could be enough to, like, just ruin the game. I know I'm talking passionately about how much I hate her here. She is going in meh, not boring, because I still, like, in a Swift, have a decent game. Like, I can play injured. I fear that my teammates in solo queue can't, and that's what bothers me. Next up on the list, Ghostface. Ghostface is fun. He's goofy. He can teabag. What's not to like? I mean, enjoyment is definitely going to be had against a Ghostface. They're just goofy little guys. They don't have a lot to do in a game other than stalk you and M1 you. But, like, usually they'll hook you and you know, they'll give you a little teabag, some nodders, maybe have no edge just to piss you off. Ghostface is fun, and you can't deny that. Okay, standard M1 killers with not a lot to do other than, like, lean round a corner and expose you for an insta-down. Like, a good Ghostface will 99 you and jump you out of nowhere, which is scary as fuck. But, like, even then, Ghostface is just a fun killer. Next up, Demogorgon. Demogorgon's a fan favorite. When Stranger Things chapter released in Dead by Daylight, I was over the moon. Like, he looks cute, and most of the Demogorgon players act cute. Like, they don't just walk the walk, they talk the talk. They always come out of nowhere with some insane lunge that puts them on top of a car, or on the game map where you can hold killers, they go up on top of the thing. Like, if you don't like Demogorgon, what is wrong with you? Demogorgon is fun. I crave going against the Demogorgon. I love it when they channel the Abyss and then nod with the mouth wide open. It is so fucking funny. Demogorgon is so much fun. Like, I crave to go against a Bubba or a Demogorgon. Moving on, we have Oni. Oni is, in my opinion, one of the most balanced killers in the game. If you can prove to the entity that you have a good chase as an M1 killer, he rewards you with a massive boomstick. That boomstick will allow you to absolutely peg it about the map, insta-downing anyone, doing insane, crazy flicks. Like, I enjoy playing as Oni, but I also enjoy going against Oni. Oni is definitely enjoyment to be had. I would put him up there with Billy, Demo, and Bubba. Oni is so much fun. I have a lot of admiration for content creators like Juglet that consistently demonstrate how fun it is to play as and against an Oni. There is so much skill expression out there, it is insane. In a similar way, we have the Deathslinger. I have played a lot of Deathslinger. I have gotten clips of, like, hitting people with the spear gun through so many, like, different obstacles. It is so much fun. A lot of justice. Oh, someone clipped that. Deathslinger suffers from being a 110 killer with a long miss cooldown and a pesky reload animation that takes forever. By the time you have reloaded, you feel like Caleb's leg. It is insane. But all that is redeemed, no pun intended, when you hit the most insane shot as Deathslinger. And the same goes for when I am on the other side of that. As the survivor, if he hits me through 17 planks of wood on the opposite side of main and then nods at me while reeling me in, I have so much respect. He will go at the bottom of enjoyment might be had. Next up, we have Pyramid Head. And this one is controversial. I feel like most Pyramid Heads just get to a pallet, see the pallet, shake the head, and then spam M2 until they hit you. They see a pallet as an enemy. They will do everything they can to avoid that pallet like the plague. And I'm not saying that because we've got the plague. Going against a Pyramid Head is so infuriating. They will respect that pallet into next year. They will pull their sword and slam that shit into the ground and then pick it up again and just fucking do that over and over again until you go down. Or if you run away from that pallet after getting hit, like, they will chase after you, ignore the next pallet, and just M2 you through the fucking wall. It is a pain in the ass. I have had good games against them, but my most recent one against a Pyramid Head, he just tunneled me at 4 gens. Pyramid Head is boring as fuck. I dread going against that killer. Next up on the list, we have Blight. Blight is very strong, and in the right hands is devastating. The game will be over quickly if they're good. I don't... Blight's a stickler. Because of his strength, it is bothersome going down against him. But I also feel like because I played Blight myself for so long, looping a Blight, I am on the edge of my seat. My forehead is dripping with sweat. My upper lip is like shaking. It is quivering. I am looping a Blight, for fuck's sake. There is money on the line. Blight is awesome. And despite his strength, I have fun going against a Blight. I'm going to put him at the top of, I mean, it's aight, because it is aight. You know what I mean? Some people play Blight, and they play Blight because they know his strength, and they do know their way around playing Blight. Some people play Blight to slug everyone at 5 gens. Some people play Blight because they like Blight, because it's like playing pinball. Next up, we have Twins. Twins is painful. What can I say about Twins? The gameplay was made to be a slugger, so if you enjoy spending most of the game on the floor, out of commission, then yeah, you crave going against them. But for most of us, it's going in meh. It's going in meh. I don't hate Twins as much as I hate an M2 spamming Pyramid Head or a mending Frenzy Legion, but Twins is definitely boring to play against, and that's behavior's fault. I will never hate a Twins player. She is fun to play and get amazing shots as Victor, but otherwise, most people are spending most of the time on the floor. And that's through no fault of their own. That's behavior's fault. That's a fight that we have to pick with the devs. And unfortunately, the proposed rework just made that even worse. Next up on the list is Trickster. Trickster was a killer that for a long period of time I could not wrap my head around. There was not an awful lot you could do. And now he gets his main event all the time, it's even fucking worse. He can down 3 people with his main event, or all 4 if you play your cards right. There is an add-on that when you hit a knife in main event, you get more of your main event back than you're using. If you consistently hit every knife, you will never run out of main event. And that is painful, because it only takes about 6 knives to get main event. I'm gonna put him in meh. I would rather face a Freddy than a Trickster, but I would rather face a Trickster than a Trapper or a Hag. Next up, Nemesis. Nemesis is fun, and you can't deny that. Yeah, he can shred through pallets just as quick as Bubba, but Nemesis is fun. I enjoy it. You know, it's a similar vein as Huntress. You know, will he wind up at this pallet? Will he not? Will he whip? Will he not? Yeah, it's 50-50s, and it's not fun relying on 50-50s, but Nemesis is just a fun killer. I don't know what it is about him, but I enjoy Nemesis, and I would rather face him than a Huntress as well. Next up, Pinhead. Pinhead is what I would call a solo queue destroyer or a solo queue stomper, purely for the fact that you can't communicate to your solo queue teammates who's going after the box. And most of the time, people think, I'm not going for it, I'll let someone else go for it. And when every single person on the team does that, he gets a chain hunt. And that chain hunt ruins the game. Pinhead is fun when you're playing with friends. When you can tell your friend go for the box or tell them, don't worry, stay on that gen, I'll go for it. I'm going to put him in its eye. I'm not really sure where. I think here sounds about right. Would I rather have a spirit than a Pinhead? Probably not. Pinhead goes around here. He is fun, but it's dependent on playing with friends and having that level of communication to know when a teammate's going for the box and when they're not. Next up, Artist. Artist is interesting. She zones, and she zones good. You know, when you reach a jungle gym or something like that, and you hear her go, ah, and she's pulling up a bird, and you think, great, I can't run down there now because she's going to cast me with some birds. But there is an aspect to playing around a loop that I can respect, and I feel like it's not as bad as people make out to be, but it is definitely, like, there is a reason they feel that way, and I can understand it to a certain degree. I would probably place Artist low its eye. I would rather a spirit or a clown, but I would rather Artist over Freddy, Trickster, Basement Trapper, Hag, and stuff like that. Next up, we've got Onryo. Onryo is, in a similar way, Pinhead. You know, there is people spamming teleport and teammates that don't want to go for tapes, and, you know, there is a perfect way to play against an Onryo, but most of the time in solo queue, your teammates haven't got a fucking clue. Bless them, they've just come home from a hard day's work, they've just eaten the bangers and mash, and they're sitting down on the couch pulling up the controller, and they load in and see it's an Onryo. They get on that gen with a TV on right next to them, and she just teleports around the map. They build their condemn, and like, holy fuck, that game is over quick. Personally, me, you know, looping an Onryo, I think it's quite fun, but Onryos never commit to chase. They will drop after 30 seconds and some TVs have lit up, and they will teleport. Onryos don't play a normal game, and that's what people don't understand. Onryo is fun, but nowhere near as much as all of these. So she is going in here. Either that or like, yeah, you know what, yeah, she's going in there. She is not that fun. Next up on the list, we have Dredge. Dredge is fun. I will admit, Dredge is fun. Spawning in and going into Nightfall instantly, or, you know, seeing some lockers that need locking at the start of the game and you know you're against a Dredge. It is a spooky game. Dredges usually have vibes, and I respect that. Dredge is not strong, but he is not weak. He can outplay you on loops using his remnant, and it is fun. I'm gonna admit, it is absolutely fun. I am gonna put Dredge like here. No, actually, you know what? I would rather face a Dredge than... Would I rather face a Dredge than a Deathslinger? Yeah, I would. I would absolutely rather face a Dredge than a Deathslinger. Next up, we have Wesker. Now, I will admit, I used to jump on the Wesker hate bandwagon because everybody and the grandma was playing Wesker, and I get why. He was like one of the most balanced yet fun killers in the game, but that 8% hinder and tunneling you off of Hulk was really painful and really brought him down. But since they've nerfed that, it is so much better facing a Wesker. I have so much fun. The Weskers that don't even try to win the game, they just go for cool bounds, are so fun and interesting. The Weskers that try to win the game normally as well are just a lot of fun to play against. I have a lot of fun looping a Wesker, and to those that don't, why? I don't get it. Why? He's balanced, he's fun, he's interactive. He has a secondary objective that you are sort of forced to do, otherwise you're insta-downable with an M2 or slowed by 4%. But like, it's not even that bothersome now. Like, it is so much fun, and not that many people play Wesker anymore, and I advocate for seeing more of them. I would value a Wesker over, like, most of these killers in this tier. Definitely give me more Weskers. That's so much fun. I love Wesker. Next up on the list is Knight, and I cannot say the same about him that I did with Wesker. Knight is boring as f***. I mean, I would rather face a Knight than, like, most of these killers. I'm going to be honest. I would probably put Legion there, actually. But, like, I would rather Knight over most of these. But Knight is just, like, rinse and repeat. Like, put a guard on you, zone you away from a loop, and chase the other way round and get the hit. Either that or the guard hits you. Like, there's not a lot you can do. And the Knights that try to get a guard hit into an M1... Like, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I have DC'd against that once, but that was because I was having a bad day. There was just not much fun to be had against a Knight, and especially in the free gen in meta, like, Knight was one of the 2 or 3 killers that excelled at doing that. Next up on the list, we have Skull Merchant, and Skull Merchant is going in boring because she is boring. Next up on this list, we have Singularity. Singularity is a lot of fun. He is a killer that can utilize free-genning really well, but also, like, free genning is your fault as a survivor if you do it. It might not be yours individually, but as a team, collectively, it is your fault for free genning. But Singularity can free gen from literally anywhere on the map. And that's unique to him because he can literally be everywhere at once. He is fun and he is interactive. A lot of people don't understand how to play against him, and I myself don't know 100%, but I have a lot of fun chases against the Singularity, and I respect him. I don't see them often, but when I do, there is usually fun to be had. So I will put Singularity probably here. Enjoyment might be had against this killer. I feel like if Singularity got buffed anymore, he would become overpowered. No! Everything's fucked! Right, after that little mishap, we are back. I have managed to get it all back. I got very scared for a second there. So next up on the list is Xenomorph. And in terms of gameplay, Xenomorph is not that fun, right? He's in crawler mode, EM2s. It's more stronger than Nemesis' whip, despite not breaking the pallet. It can go over objects that you honestly believe it shouldn't, but I still think it could be worse. Like, I still have decent chases against the Xenomorph. There is a skill ceiling. I don't meet many Xenomorphs that have passed that. Most Xenomorph players are doing it for a daily, and honestly, I respect that because Xenomorph. Like, there is so much behavior could have done with his power, and they just didn't. They added in flame turrets, which is, you know, they kind of had to, because he can't stay in crawler mode all game. But he is still in crawler mode most of the game. You know, you burn him out with a turret, and he just goes back underground, crawls about for 2 seconds, comes back out, and he's back in crawler mode. Like, there isn't a lot you can do, but I still think there are a few more killers that are boring than him, and I would put him in there. Like, I would rather face a Xenomorph than a Trapper or a Hag. Next up on this list, Chucky. Chucky is bugged at the minute, and I absolutely hate him. And if he was like that normally base kit, I would be putting him right there, because he has no cooldown on his power, and he has like a high turn rate, which I think is ridiculous. But once they fix them, he's back to normal, and he is still relatively boring. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. In my opinion, Chucky is a rinse and repeat. Break a pallet, go hidey-ho, and then slice and dice, and boom, you're dead. Like, Chucky is relatively boring, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, but he's not boring enough to warrant going in this tier list. I still do have a lot of fun against him. He is still a 110 killer as well, but I think his cooldown is just too short to outplay. Next up, we have Unknown, and Unknown is fun. I think he is relatively weak in terms of his power, having to hit you with it 3 times to get a down. 4 if you manage to stare him down enough, or it could take many times if they keep staring you down and you keep missing. You only get 1 attempt after infecting them, otherwise they usually stare you down enough. It takes skill to play, but he also takes skill to play against, and I can respect that. I think he's very balanced, and mid-game, when he has a lot of hallucinations placed down, he is very strong. So, you know, you need to be on your guard, getting rid of those hallucinations. I admire the Unknowns that bring Insidious and pretend to be a clone. I think that is really fucking funny. There is a lot you can do with Unknown. I think he's very fun, and for that, I think I'm going to put him up here in this tier. I respect Unknown players, I really do. Especially like Harry Potter, who's one of the best like Unknowns in the world. I am happy to put him up here, and enjoyment might be had. I honestly think he's more fun than Pig. I would actually even say more fun than Mikey. I think he borders Wesker in terms of how much fun that can be had. For our penultimate killer, we have Vecna. Now, Vecna is tricky, and I'm not just saying that because he has a book full of magic tricks, but some Vecnas just, like, they play him well, and you are dead pretty quick. I think most of his powers, on paper, are actually really weak. You know, he has an orb that locates you, which is fine. He has the skulls, which he can just crouch, but they're more used for zoning. And if a Lich is good with zoning you with his skulls, you are in for a rough game, because all he does is press a button once every 38 seconds, and like, he can guarantee a hit if he plays his cards right. And most of the time, a Vecna that's played Vecna often will play their cards right, and just, it feels like boring, monotonous gameplay. And if he wants to tunnel you, say goodbye. You will get 8k points with an escape cake, and you are dead. Overall, though, in terms of like interactiveness and everything, he is definitely alright. You know, hate the player, not the game, I think the saying goes. I can't remember which one I said before, but hating Vecna, not the person that's playing Vecna, is silly. Like, hate the player. If they're playing like a scumbag, that's on them. But Vecna as a whole is definitely alright to play against. I would probably... yeah, I'm just going to slap him here. Like, a lot more of these killers have more enjoyment than Vecna. And finally, we have Dracula. Dracula is in a spot at the minute where he is insanely strong. He has no cooldown from transforming into a bat to back to like his Dracula vampire form, and that feels really rough. Dracula is not that fun to play against. He will M1 you or use his Hellfire, transform into a bat and catch up to you, and if he has a good headset, he will land on top of you. You are dead. There needs to be more of a cooldown. He has saved the best for last, tier 4, like, in his base kit. It is not fair. There is no doubt about that, and that needs nerfing. And I do think that that's going to be taken into account when he's nerfed in November, and that is a very welcome change. I don't know why they changed it to 2.5 seconds. It is way too strong. There is no cooldown at all. And I think the same goes for his Hellfire. If you miss that Hellfire, you should not get it back as quick as Pyramid. And so for that, I'm going to put him in meh. I would probably put him around here. And with that, that is my tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel out massively, and I very much appreciate that. Do you agree with this tier list, or do you have different opinions? If so, please leave a comment down below and let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.